They actually predicted this, and it's truly time to wake up. My goal in this is to help you understand at a deep level, not the hype of cryptocurrency, but what is actually happening in your monetary system in America and globally. And if you are not understanding on what is about to happen to the American monetary system and the global system, your family may end up on the wrong side of this. Now, they've been giving us hints, they've been giving us warnings, but they're actually giving us the blueprint hidden in plain sight. But the issue is, with Americans specifically, is they buried us in a monetary system that is all based on debt. We're trading so much time for money, we have no time to pay attention. We work all day, we give up our time from our family for money, but unfortunately, we're paid in someone else's debt. We're taught in America to borrow from our future selves, taking away from our future family and generations. Well, guess what? Our grandparents' economy is no longer here. Our parents' economy is no longer here. We caught the ball. And if you don't start to transition your understanding of the financial system and an inflationary US dollar that makes you poor every single year, to understand why the elites now are transitioning to things like Bitcoin, they're getting back into gold and silver, and they're getting into things that have fixed supplies. Every single fiat system has collapsed in history, but there's a special inflection point right now. We are actually in a system that is transitioning, that a new wave of currency has come in, a new system has come in that can actually fix the American monetary system. So I'm going to show you why Ray Dalio, Robert Kiyosaki, both predicted this, and both are now huge fans of Bitcoin. Robert Kiyosaki going all in, and Ray Dalio going from being against Bitcoin to allocating about 5% of his portfolio into Bitcoin, and now encouraging others to do the same. So we're going to share the facts, figures, numbers, logic. This channel is about stoicism, being calm, staying out of the meme coin casino and the hype, because there is no get rich quick. This is much more serious than that. This is about understanding macro and microeconomics, financial literacy, and actually learning how to create cash flow, investing in deflationary assets that will appreciate over time, using those deflationary assets to create protection for your family, and learning how to responsibly leverage, because everything in the system is debt. You're either on the consumer side of debt or you're on the wealth side of debt. And that's what I'm here to teach you. So let's dive right in. So the first thing we're going to watch is, you need to get your pen and paper out if you're very serious about changing your family's life. And these are very important videos. What I'd recommend too is I'd recommend sitting down with your children around the table. I'm working to improve my language so that this could be a family show. I will not stop saying Warriors Rise, get your shit together. I'm letting you know, making that very clear. I say that to my kids all the time. Get your shit together. Let's go. We're all working together. Okay. But we're going to watch this first video. This is amazing. This was posted by, let me show you guys real quick. I want to give respect to the channel. Free investing. Okay. So we're going to watch this. This is a great description. It's about a couple minutes. Then we're going to read a tweet from Robert Kiyosaki. And then I'm going to break down why people are transitioning to Bitcoin, why I created a Bitcoin treasury for my company, why I created an XRP treasury for my company. And I'll explain to you on the back end exactly what I'm doing to free my family financially through cash flow, through deflationary assets that appreciate, through protection, and how I leverage to continue to keep that going to build generational wealth.
Is when the Federal Reserve and other central banks come in and buy again. And then the next time, that is a very risky point, is when we have the next economic downturn. What we have done, my generation, unfortunately, has allowed debt to build up, has allowed infrastructure to deteriorate, has instead borrowed forward. And so if we think about what this debt restructuring and renovation is going to cost, and we think about that's not measured in money, money just produces productivity. So the work and how we're going to have to be in order to be effective has to overcome that deficit for this giant renovation. So we haven't done it, but it's very simple. There are debtors and there are creditors, and the system has got to work well for both. One man's lending has got to be rewarded to compensate for making that lend. And so you have a process. If you accumulate debt, you are accumulating the need to pay back in real terms. You have to pay back the principal, and you have to pay back the interest in real terms. Otherwise, nobody's going to want to lend and the system doesn't work. And the two issues that you have a choice of is to pay that back in hard money.
This is important.
In other words, money of value that's of comparable value, or you have to print money and you pay back in deflated money. And so what has happened over a period of time throughout history, these cycles, by the way, go back to the Old Testament, years of Jubilee, and the same cycle always happens. And there's a tendency for debt to rise relative to incomes that are needed to service that debt. And so you see different societies. In our society, we have high debt service costs, which then will rise as we have large deficits and large amounts of money to pay back. And if that balance is not well achieved, so that the creditor does not receive an adequate amount of compensation, they will sell that debt. They will not hold that debt. And so it's not just the amount of new debt that's created. It is also the amount of debt outstanding that could be sold and therefore create a huge imbalance.
Okay. So that's where we're at right now in America. That's why when they had the bond auction, nobody showed up. And what did they do? They turned on the printing machine. We're at 100 and I think 23% as of today. Okay. We're at $37 trillion in debt. 30% is held outside the United States. The biggest holders of our debt is Japan and China. Okay. So now are you starting to see clearly why Bitcoin has become the Bitcoin strategic reserve? Do you see clearly why they told you to run this way as they all started to stack their bags in this deflationary asset that 95% of the supply is gone? 95% of the public doesn't have exposure to crypto. So who owns it, guys? Wake up. 80% of the supply has not moved. Bitcoin is not going anywhere. XRP is not going anywhere. And I'm going to explain to you why I store my deflating value dollar in things like Bitcoin and XRP, in things like cash value life insurance that protects my principal. And I have a increasing death benefit that keeps up with inflation just in case something happens to me. We're strategic about our finances. We're not in crypto to get rich quick. We're in crypto to preserve our wealth and build generational wealth. Okay. So Robert Kiyosaki posts this, and I'm going to read this whole thing. And I hope you're still hanging on here. Comment warrior if you're still here, because this is really important for you and your family. He said, I shouldn't brag. This is Robert Kiyosaki on Twitter. I shouldn't brag, but in 2013, I published Rich Dad Prophecy predicting the world's economy today. It still pisses me off that so many modern day prophets, whose names I will not mention due to professional courtesy, are now claiming to have warned of extreme crisis we're in today. My ego has its place, yet the fact remains, as described in my 2013 book, Rich Dad Prophecy, the biggest crash in history is upon us in the world in 2025. Millions are losing their jobs due to AI. Inflation is stealing the retirements of millions of baby boomers. The baby boomers are getting rocked right now. They're supposed to be retiring. Please be aware of millions of false prophets on YouTube and in our schools. The idea of going to school to find a safe, secure job is for losers. My solution remains the same. Choose your teachers wisely on YouTube and save gold, silver, and Bitcoin. Please take care. I think he means 2025 here. It says 29, 25. 2025 is the year representing the biggest change in world financial history. I've been telling you guys 2025 to 2030 is the transition. 2020 to 2025 was a setup, and now we go into the full transition, and we practiced what we preach. We got our family set up, and now it's important for you to start really dialing it in. Be a winner, not a high educated loser looking for job security with thousands in student loan debt. Find a teacher who will guide you to your financial future. That's what I did when I made the painful decision to follow my rich dad to become an entrepreneur, not a poor dad's advice and become a government bureaucrat. Where we're in for a rough ride globally. The good news is the rich will get richer. That is a fact. And I want you to get richer, not poorer. Choose your teachers wisely. Boom. Next update. Over 100 companies now collectively hold more than 830,000 Bitcoin. We hold Bitcoin on our treasury for our company. We hold XRP on our treasury for our company. We store a portion of our profits in Bitcoin and XRP and cash generating dividends. Okay. We are not putting our company at risk. We're not putting our company at the risk of hyperinflation. Guys, if they start printing and lower interest rates, yeah, we're gonna have a temporary relief. But remember, when money prints, interest rates go down. Eventually, everything overinflates again because it's just debt. And I believe, mark my word, come back to this video in 2029, that we're going to go into hyperinflation. And you're going to be stuck in the debt system. And then there's going to be, boom, a transition to a deflationary. And guess who's going to own everything? The rich. Once again, Jim Rohn, you give $1 million to every person in society, it ends up in the same 1%'s hands until the 99% wake up. Okay, take a look at this. Just in, Bitcoin is up over 574% since 2022 bear market low. This is just the beginning. These are the lows, guys. Everybody's like, why would I buy Bitcoin at 111,000, 104,000? When I was buying it at 25,000, I said the same thing. You're buying the bottom of the future top. You're buying the bottom of the future top. Let me say it again. You're buying the bottom of the future top. Okay. 2023, I was buying it bottomed out at 16. I was buying at 25,000. Okay. Right now, I'm still buying at 104,000 as of today. I buy it every single day. I buy XRP every single day. Instead of going to Starbucks and eating out every single day, I buy Bitcoin and XRP. So when people spend money on coffee and they spend money on Starbucks, I'm transmuting my cash that I work hard to earn and my cash flow from my dividends, and I'm putting it into Bitcoin and XRP. Every single week when I get paid by my companies, I'm either creating cash flow through cash generating dividends, putting into a deflationary asset like Bitcoin and XRP. You can, if you're not into crypto, get into gold and silver. You don't have to use cryptocurrency. Okay. If you're not, fully understanding this, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you exactly what I do. Okay. You have to make your own decisions. That's what Robert Kiyosaki's talking about. Educate yourself. Then I use protection every single month. I'm stuffing money into my cash value life insurance. I have multiple policies. My kids have policies. We have family banks. Okay. And then leverage responsibly. Leverage responsibly. I have a bank on the Bitcoin side and I have a bank on the insurance side. So here's exactly what it looks like. Okay. I know what's going on with the system. And I've been trusting this in my intuition since 2020. And what happened from 2020 to 2022, when I saw crypto go skyrocketing through the roof, I'm like, this is unnatural. This is not normal. And what I didn't do is I didn't buy Lambos and Ferraris and watches and pop bottles. I took that money and I'm like, okay, this is awesome. Thank you, God, for this abundance. How can I multiply this like King Solomon? How can I multiply this like richest man in Babylon? And I followed the richest man in Babylon. I followed the wisdom of King Solomon and I diversified. Cash value life insurance. We built businesses. We have 6 ecosystems now. 3 are doing very well. 2 are in 7 figures. 1 is going to 7 figures. And the other couple we're working on getting into profitability. So we're building businesses that are cash generating. But when I started to make more wealth, I did not buy stuff. I did the richest man in Babylon. I multiplied my money. I went back into crypto when everybody took off running and was screaming and it was so sad. And because they bought all the shit they couldn't afford to impress people they didn't like and went broke in the bear market, I went back deep into the ones that I trusted. Things like Bitcoin, XRP, Solana, HBAR, ADA, XLM, the real world solve tokens. I stayed away from meme coins. I stayed away from the casino. I stayed away from get rich quick. And I slowly and disciplined and methodically dollar cost averaged in. I bought when I had more cash flow when it dipped down. And then I started stacking dividend ETFs. So now I have cash generating businesses, cash generating dividends. I have insurance protection. Okay. I have money in deflationary assets like Bitcoin and XRP and other cryptos. And I have leverage. I have a Bitcoin bank now that I can leverage against to beat the hurdle rate because Bitcoin grows about 50% every year. If you're borrowing at 14, now Strike and get 9%. And if I borrow, I buy cash generating assets. So I borrowed from my Bitcoin. I bought my insurance firm. It's going to pay it off. And we got what's 8 months left. I borrowed at 14. Bitcoin grows 50% every year on average. During this current moment in time, going backwards, I made 36% on my money. I didn't go to Wells Fargo Bank and borrow. I borrowed against my Bitcoin. Okay. Now I have the insurance bank over here. I could borrow at 5% from my insurance policy. If I borrow at 5% and I have a cash generating dividend that's producing anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40%, I'm now beating the hurdle rate by, what would the math be? At 40%, 35%. I pay off the loan. The key is to pay off the leverage as quick as possible. So your job is to take your hard-earned money, your cash, which is trash, and then transmute it into cash flow, and then transmute the cash flow out to debt, out of debt. It's debt. It's all debt into something that's going to grow. Okay. That you can create leverage to create cash flow. Okay. Wealthy people use cash flow, use leverage to get wealthier. Okay. The working poor and middle class use leverage to take away from their future selves. Here, let me give you an example. Okay. The working class and the working poor, they get a $30,000 a year job. Okay. Now what they do is they extend their buying power by getting a $30,000 car. Okay. They make 30,000 and they buy a $30,000 car because they can extend it over 72 months. And so they focus on the payment, but they don't realize that they literally took away from their future self. So now they're making a payment on something. They extended their buying power by 30,000. Then they go get a $10,000 credit card. So now they expended their buying power by 40,000. And they put a cruise on that. They go on a trip, right? Or they put a handbag or shoes or whatever it is on there. So now they increase their buying power by 40,000, but they didn't increase their income. Okay, so now they have these payments and they see the payments. And we indoctrinated people like, okay, well, wait a minute. Now I'm going to go to school and I'm going to get a $200,000 school loan. And then you get out of school and you have barely enough pay to make the payment and you're stuck in a debt-based society that got you drunk in the Coliseum drinking on the wine. So it takes discipline. The first step is creating a budget. The second step is humbling yourself and saying, listen, I don't need 2 cars. I don't need a $900 car payment. I make $60,000 a year. I'm going to drive a hoopty. I'm going to ride a bike. I'm going to take public transportation. And then you get really disciplined. Every time you get paid first 10%, richest man in Babylon, you save it. And then now you realize, oh, I'm saving it in actually or I'm saving it in something that I become poor. The bank's in first position. They're taking your money and they're lending it. So now you put yourself in first position. You get paid and you're like, okay, I need to make this a brother or sister, richest man in Babylon, make your gold multiply. So now you say, well, maybe I put in a cash generating dividend. Maybe I put it into a deflationary asset. Maybe put it in gold and silver, put in something that grows. When it grows, then you leverage against the growth and you buy something else that creates cash flow. And then once you create cash flow, you multiply that money and you repeat it. And the next thing you know, you're in a cash flow bubble. Your family is free. You're no longer relying on a man or woman to make your payments, and you can have freedom. The stuff will come. You'll have so much money if you do this in the next 10 years, disciplined, consistent, and you'll be able to get whatever you want. But you won't buy the things you want with your own money. You'll buy it with OPM. When you see me on my wake boat on the lake having a blast with my family, I'm going to be driving a retirement policy. I promise you. If you ever see me driving a fun, fast car, that's paid for by other people's money. I will take the money that I would pay for that vehicle. I would take it, I would put it into an insurance policy. I would borrow against insurance policy at 5%, and then I would take that and I would buy a cash generating dividend. I would allow the dividend to make the payment on the vehicle. So now I'm making money on this side. I borrow at 5%. The markets say it's getting 8%. I'm making 3% still on my cash value. And so now I'm using my money to grow my money and using other people's money to buy the things. That's just an example. Okay. So we have to wake up, family. We have to wake up. And I started at a very small level doing this. Okay. And I'm still small fish compared to Robert Kiyosaki and, I'm a small fish in a huge pond. Right. But I did go from broke on my parents' couch to a millionaire investor, a millionaire entrepreneur, and now it's starting to multiply. So it's time, family. I love you very much. And I don't mean to be so direct, but it's time to wake up. It's time to really get serious about this. It's time to really humble yourself and say, you know what? Especially men, you're the head of the household. Make yourself last. Make your family first. God, family, protect your ecosystem at all costs and get out of other men's business. You're too busy working on yours. Set boundaries, man. Set boundaries, strict boundaries, get disciplined, like build principles. If there's any men in your life that are not aligned with your principles, cut them off as fast as possible. You want to meet God? Get bored. Operate in solitude for a while. Start fasting, meditate, pray, work out, exercise. So I love you guys. It's That's all I got for you. Have an amazing Friday. Warriors, rise. Get your shit together. God bless you.